Hi, my name is Ragnar Seal. I'm key expert at the European Union Eastern Partnership Culture Creativity Programme, and welcome to Cultural Strategy course. The aim of this course is to talk about how to make a transparent and inclusive cultural strategy process and prepare documents that are not only documents that will be put in the shelves, but actually can bring about real change and can have real impact. It's all about the process. Why do we need cultural strategies? The role of the government is not to say creative people what to do or what not to do. The role of the governments and institutions are to create a favorable environment where culture creativity can flourish. As funds for culture and creativity are always limited, the aim of cultural strategy making is to set clear priorities and clear objectives, to understand what is really important and that could have real impact to the culture and creative sectors. But it's not only important of what we need to do, but also how we are doing things. The culture strategy sets out the clear rules of the game, of transparency, inclusiveness, and openness and honesty that guides us through the culture policy making. Who needs cultural strategies? Well, firstly, of course, this is a tool for the governments, for the Ministry of Culture, but also for other ministries that are all related to bringing about a change in cultural sectors. Ministries of Education, and Economy and Tourism and Regional Affairs and Foreign Affairs and many others. It is also important for institutions and authorities, museums and libraries and operas and many other organizations. But it's also important for cultural organizations, whether they are private, non-governmental organizations, because it helps them to position themselves and understand how they can contribute to the wider strategy in the country or in the city. There are 5 main objectives for cultural strategy process. Firstly, we need to bring culture from the margins to the center stage. We need to understand that culture is not only a nice thing to have, something that comes after everything else. It's not only the concern of the Ministry of Culture or the City Department of Culture. Culture impacts and influences many other areas of life, jobs and growth, employment, tourism, education. So the first aim is to make culture a matter for all, not only for few. The second reason for cultural strategy process, is to have a clear division of roles and understanding of tasks between the national, the regional, the local, and the private spheres of culture. Every one of those areas, every one of those levels have a very important role, and we need to recognize that role and help all of them to work on the same objectives. Third reason is to have a very clearly defined vision, long-term vision for culture. That means that we should not only look at today's problems, today's challenges, but also understand how culture should be positioned in a society in 5, 10, 15, or even 25 years. Fourth, very important reason is to have a clear agreement between all stakeholders on how are we doing cultural policy. It's very important that culture policy is not only an area for few policymakers, a few politicians or officials, but it is an inclusive and transparent process where all involved partners should have a say. And fifth, it is important that we don't only speak about big words and long-term visions, but we also look at very practical things we can do immediately. So the role for the cultural strategy process is also to set up a very clear step-by-step action plan for the next 1 or 2 or 3 years to understand which kind of policy reforms we need, which kinds of actions need to be taken. As with many strategies, the process, a good quality process of making a cultural strategy is often more important than the end result itself. Therefore, it is absolutely crucial to create and design a process that is, firstly, engaging different stakeholders and people. Secondly, is open and transparent for everybody to understand and see. Thirdly, creates an environment where people can be consulted and the ideas can be heard. Fourthly, can raise awareness about the role of culture and creativity. And fifthly, brings together people from different backgrounds, different areas, different regions, and different needs. The reason for this kind of a process is that people, all people concerned, should feel ownership of the process and the final result itself. Good quality process is not easy. It can be time-consuming and sometimes very messy. This is why we need a very clear management structure to help us to guide through this process. The clear management system usually involves three elements. Firstly, a task force, a working group that involves not only officials from Ministry or State Department, but also key stakeholders from private and non-governmental sectors. The responsibility for that task force is really to guide this process and to manage the expectations, to manage the input, and provide draft versions of the documents. The second important element is cross-departmental commission. This is where people from different areas that are related to culture, from education, from tourism, from innovation, from regional affairs, from foreign affairs and many others, come together to be consulted and to be heard from their perspective. How culture can help and support the realization of their aims and goals, and how can they contribute back to the culture policy. And thirdly, it is important to have a wide range of consultation meetings with large number of people that provide a space for them to actually be involved, be heard, and to come up with their suggestions, ideas, and recommendations for culture policies and culture strategies. To guarantee the transparency of the process and inclusion and engagement of key stakeholders, it is important to have a very clear communication strategy for the strategy formulation process. It involves a separate website and also a very active engagement of social media. The aim of communication activities are to share the documents that are available, the working versions, the draft versions, also to have a very clear understanding of who are involved, the list of stakeholders, but also the timeline. And what is very, very important is that we should provide the space for people on ongoing manner to send us their contributions, recommendations and ideas through online links, through online consultation tools. Finally, who should be involved in the cultural strategy process? It has been often said that two groups of people definitely should be involved. Those that need to be involved and those that want to be involved. There is no good reason to leave out people that want to contribute and are motivated to engage in this process. The more people you have in this process, the more legitimacy, the better mandate this process has. And let's not forget, if a strategy is made by a very small group of people, it's always easy for the next minister or next mayor or the next administration to simply push this document away. But if lots of people, if hundreds or not thousands of people have been somehow involved in the making of this document, it is clear that the next people that come cannot simply and so easily push this document and these agreements aside. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the course useful, and if you want to learn more about how to make culture strategies, then you can find more information below this video and the program's website. Thank you.